The police sirens were still echoing across the valley when Karen strutted up to the squad car, clipboard clutched tightly in her manicured hands, demanding that the deputies arrest me for trespassing on HOA common land. I stood there in my dusty work boots on the gravel driveway of the 40-acre ranch I'd inherited from my grandfather, watching two confused officers try to make sense of the situation. There was Karen, perfectly coiffed blonde hair, white Escalade covered in HOA enforcement stickers, pointing at me like I was some kind of criminal on my own property. The sharp scent of sagebrush mixed with her heavy, expensive perfume as her high heels crunched dramatically on the gravel with every theatrical gesture. The lead deputy frowned at his tablet, checking property records, then looked back at Karen with the kind of expression you'd give someone who just claimed the moon was made of cheese. What would you do if someone called the cops on you while you were standing on your own land? Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. I bet your neighborhood has its own Karen too. Let me take you back to how all this started. My name is Jake Morrison. 3 months earlier, I was just another burned-out 52-year-old city guy crawling out of a brutal divorce. Tired of the noise and the stress, I decided it was finally time to come home to the Colorado ranch my grandfather had left me. The same 40 acres where I'd spent every summer as a kid learning to fix fences, feed chickens, and ride horses. Every morning I'd sit on that old wraparound porch with my coffee, watching the sunrise paint the Rocky Mountains in shades of orange and gold. The screen door still squeaked the same way it always had, and stepping into the old barn brought back that familiar smell of aged leather and sweet hay. For the first time in 15 years of corporate life, I felt something I thought I'd lost forever: real peace. What Kara Mitchell didn't know about me was that I had built and still ran Revenge Tech Solutions, the largest HOA management company in the country. We oversee 847 homeowner associations across 23 states. I've seen every dirty trick, every power grab, and every petty tyrant who thinks a clipboard and a fancy title make them untouchable. But I was done with all that. I just wanted to fix up my grandfather's 1920s farmhouse, maybe raise a few horses, and live quietly on the land that had always healed whatever was broken inside me. Then Karen entered the picture. She was the self-appointed queen of Pine Ridge Estates, the upscale development that had sprung up next to my ranch about 5 years earlier. Picture every HOA horror story you've ever heard, then wrap it in a perfectly styled blonde bob, a white Escalade with a vanity plate, HOA boss, and a fake sweet voice that could curdle milk. Karen had convinced the county to rezone the area as mixed residential commercial, which was really just fancy language for her wanting total control over everything she could see. For years, she had targeted anyone who didn't fit her vision of perfect suburban beige. Elderly residents, single mothers, families who dare to plant vegetables instead of ornamental grass, or anyone who parked an RV in their own driveway. My first warning sign came the Tuesday I arrived and found her crew ripping out my grandfather's hand-carved fence posts, the ones that had marked our property line since 1924. "Honey, I know this is hard," she said, clutching her clipboard like a shield, "but progress waits for no one." When I pointed out the fence had stood there for over a century, she gave me that cold-eyed smile and waved around official-looking documents claiming a 20-foot buffer zone was required. What she really wanted was my land for her next luxury development. Over the following weeks, the harassment escalated. She showed up with county inspectors, slapping me with stop work orders and massive impact fees for unpermitted structures, even though the barn and house had been there long before she moved in. Most people would have panicked and folded. Instead, I smiled and asked to see the proper documentation. That night, I did what I do best. I started digging through public records. What I uncovered was shocking. Karen's Pine Ridge Estates, HOA, had never properly incorporated with the state, meaning for 5 years she'd been collecting fees and issuing fines as basically an illegal neighborhood club. Even worse, her fancy clubhouse had been built over protected wetlands without the required environmental reports. And her decorative fence, it encroached 3 feet onto my property. I filed formal complaints with the EPA and sent her a polite but firm certified letter about the encroachment. The next morning, she stormed onto my porch in a rage. "You think you're clever, cowboy," she hissed. I just sipped my coffee and told her I was simply following proper procedures. That's when she started playing dirtier, threatening to declare my ranch an agricultural nuisance because of the smell of hay and the sound of my rooster. She hired surveyors without permission, scheduled inspections during my work hours, and even flew a drone over my property like a mechanical vulture. But Karen made one fatal mistake after another. Through neighbors like sweet Mrs. Chun, who made the best dumplings in the county, and Mr. Peterson, the Vietnam vet who just wanted to park his RV in peace, I learned she had been systematically targeting anyone who questioned her authority. Illegal fines, threats of liens, and manufacturer violations had become her weapons of choice. While she was busy launching her bureaucratic blitz, stacking my door with ridiculous violation notices about my chickens, my barn, and even my grandfather's old solar panels, I was quietly building my case. I discovered $180,000 missing from the HOA reserve fund. Karen had been paying herself $8,000 a month in unapproved management fees, filing fake insurance claims for storms that never happened, and using the money to fund her secret development plans that included turning my ranch into a golf course and Mrs. Chin's garden into luxury condos. I wasn't fighting alone anymore. With the help of my old business partner Sarah, a former FBI forensic accountant, my divorce attorney Marcus, and a growing group of fed-up neighbors, we turned Grandpa's barn into a war room. We documented everything: financial irregularities, illegal actions, sabotage attempts on my irrigation system, and even her failed attempt to bribe me with a shady cash offer well above market value. The breaking point came on a quiet Tuesday morning. Karen called 911, claiming I had threatened her with a shotgun while I was simply feeding my chickens. Sirens blared as two sheriff's cruisers pulled up, followed by Karen in her Escalade, playing the victim with smeared mascara and dramatic sobs. But this time I was ready. When a deputy asked if I owned any firearms, I calmly explained my grandfather's old hunting rifle was locked away and hadn't been fired in years. Then I handed over a USB drive containing months of compiled evidence, recordings, financial records, witness statements, and proof of her systematic fraud. By the way, I told him I run Revenge Tech Solutions, the largest HOA management company in the country. I've taken down schemes exactly like this in 23 states. The color drained from Karen's face. For the first time, she was speechless. Within minutes, detectives arrived with search warrants. Karen was arrested on multiple charges, including embezzlement, mail fraud, wire fraud, extortion, and filing false police reports. Her brother-in-law, the county commissioner, soon found himself under investigation too. What was supposed to be an emergency HOA meeting to elect new leadership turned into a standing room-only public reckoning. The community center was packed with residents, news crews, and even people from neighboring developments. When the court-appointed monitor announced the scale of the fraud, over $427,000 stolen from residents, the room gasped. I took the podium and finally revealed who I really was. The applause that followed told me the tide had turned for good. 6 months later, Pine Ridge Estates looked like a different place. The HOA now ran with real transparency, monthly financial reports, open meetings, and actual democratic decision-making. My ranch became the heart of the community again, hosting potlucks, board meetings, and good old-fashioned neighborly gatherings. Mrs. Chin's garden thrived. Mr. Peterson parked his RV without fear, and children played freely where Karen once dreamed of building condos. Karen received 4 years in federal prison along with massive restitution orders. Every stolen dollar was returned to the families she had hurt. Her political connections crumbled, and her development dreams died with her reputation. As for me, I found more than justice on that old ranch. Sarah and I got married in the barn, surrounded by the entire community. I wrote a book about the experience, launched a free educational website to help HOA members nationwide, and help pass stronger oversight laws in multiple states. Revenge Tech Solutions shifted its focus from simple management to reform, exposing corruption in over 200 communities and counting. The best part: every evening the sun still sets over the mountains just like it did for my grandfather. And in Pine Ridge, freedom now rings louder than any HOA gavel ever could. If you've got your own HOA horror story, drop in the comments. You might just see it turn into the next video. Hit subscribe, ring the notification bell, and join us here at HOA Stories, where we turn every ridiculous rule and entitled power trip into a tale worth telling.